Reason, thank you so much for inviting us here. How are you?
All good, all good, all good.
Oh, good. Reason, take us back before you were this big brand that you are now. Have you always wanted to be a rapper?
They say I'm fat.
Brand-wise.
I guess I've always wanted to be a rapper as much as like, you know, as fun as it was, you know, because I was a part of this like little culture that was going on. I mean, growing up as kids, you thought rappers were cool, you thought hip-hop was cool, you thought the music was fun, and you wanted to take part of it. I mean, just like, you know, basketball, you know, when you thought basketball was cool, you went and played basketball. If you thought soccer was cool, you played soccer. I kind of got into the hip-hop thing, and I guess you always hoped to be, you know, this guy. You always hoped to be a big brand, you always hoped to be an artist, you always hoped to be a professional musician, but you never really know if you ever will be. I don't know if that makes sense, but I guess there's always been a hope or a dream or an aspiration to be that big. I don't know if I knew if I was going to be this big.
Okay, but you knew you wanted to be a rapper.
I think I knew I wanted to be a rapper, yeah. It took a lot of time to actually get me to a point where I was confident enough to say I actually do want to be a rapper, because there's a lot of things that have happened, you know, post deciding, yo man, I'm actually going to do this like full time. You know what I mean? There's like, you know, there's the pressure of having a job, the pressure of having money, the pressure of knowing whether this is going to be a viable business or not, whether this is going to be worthwhile or not. You know, there's all those fears, all those insecurities. And I mean, if you think back to what hip-hop music was like 5 years ago, it's not like now, where it's like the kid can just aspire to leave high school and just want to be a rapper, you know?
Yes.
There used to be those little beliefs that you need to have something to fall back on, things like that, you know? But I think it kind of got to a point where it was just like you wanted and you just so in love with the idea so much that you actually just like, okay, forget it, I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens.
Yeah. So what exactly did you do? How old were you actually when you started to pursue the career in rapping?
It's kind of hard to tell with me because it's like different stages in my life where it kind of like, okay, now next level, okay, now next level. I mean, there was a period in my life where I guess after high school, where I was, you know, I was being a hype man, and that was for Proverb, you know, and those are the times when I actually got to see an actual artist, you know, working as a professional musician in this, you know, in a genre, I guess, you know, and making money out of it, being presented, getting endorsements and getting deals and this, that, and the third, getting bookings, getting fans, you know, this, that, and the third, you know. So I think I got to understand that a little bit more. And then there's a time when I actually started releasing music, you know. And then there's a time when I actually started performing music. And then there's a time when I actually released music and it didn't really go well. And then I got signed again, and then I released music again, and then things popped off again. So it's kind of hard to tell. But I think I'd say like straight after high school, I think I started working my way. I wasn't really like on it, like, yo, this is what I, you know, 100%. But I think I was busy planting the seeds around that time.
Alright, take us back to when you released the first single.
Sure. There's a couple of singles that came before the first single, but I'd say before Do It Like I Can, sure, there's a lot of things to tell you about. I mean, there's stories of getting a credit card just to release music and the music not selling and having to pay back the credit card. There's stories of having no manager and asking the missus to be the manager. There's stories of not being able to send music to TV stations, not being able to send music to radio stations, not knowing what a radio station wants, not being able to. There's just so many different things that actually we went through, so many different problems.
Alright, so take us back, especially when you said you were not aware what radio stations wanted. Can you tell us about that journey? Did you release something, you took it there, they were saying no? What exactly were you going through?
Well, it's funny actually, after making an album, you kind of have the impression that, you know, especially if you have a little bit of establishment, you know, that it's easy to actually walk into a building, like you can walk into YFM. I mean, a huge part of my career started in YFM because I was doing jingles for Fresh.
Yes.
But this was when I was in high school, so damn, so that's also a part of my career growing up. Yeah. But you know, I always used to believe like I could walk into YFM and I could just drop off any song and they would play it because they remember me and they know me because I used to do these jingles. And
you were really big when you were doing that.
Well,
really
yes, it did actually. I think to a point it kind of did because a lot of people used to listen to Fresh's show. They used to hear those jingles, they used to like those jingles, and people would be like, oh yeah, this guy's really, he's not that bad, he can stick around. Oh, sorry. I think so. So I always believed that I could just walk into any building and I could just say, hey, here's my music, please play it. I've done jingles before, you know, remember me, I was that guy, and you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't the case, man, because it was really based on the type of music that you bring, and I had to learn that, you know, and even knowing how to send music in. I mean, to a certain degree, I still don't technically know, because there's always been somebody there who's just been assigned to do that, or somebody that always does that, but like, you know, they take the single and they submit it to radio, but I've got to learn what to submit to radio, you know, because before that all you thought was, if I rap good and I have a nice song and a nice beat, I'll be fine. Whereas there's certain like sciences that come into making a radio single, there's certain sciences that come into making a video single, and there's certain budgets even as well, you know what I mean? And at that time we didn't have the budgets, we didn't have the funds, we didn't have the connects, we didn't have the big features, we didn't have like the big producers. It was literally me and my friend Instro, and it was just the two of us. And after making the music, we were like, okay, so what do we do now? Let's do some gigs. Okay, cool. So we call people who do gigs. I call Lakio, I call people in, you know, in Cape Town, I call people in Joburg, I call people everywhere, try to organize a couple of gigs. Back then I was really insistent on having a band, because I thought the band was going to make me bigger, it was going to make me like, you know, so it was expensive. I would make money on that night and I'd spend it on the band and I'd make no money. But I had a great show and, you know, people loved it. So I think there was so many things that happened, but it was all, like, looking back, it's like all things that kind of prepped what we have right now, like all those struggles and all those challenges, you know, like now you know better, and now you know how to treat certain things and how to go for certain things, you know. But it was quite a lot of work.
Oh, wow. And when would you say you had your major break into the industry?
Doing jingles for Fresh is big enough, but
you were still
off industry standard, they would say that my biggest break was probably doing Like I Can, which is probably like my first #1 single across all radio stations, and which is quite big to a point, especially when it's your first album and you're coming in and you really want to start small, and you have a song that goes #1 in all these places, then it's like, damn.
How do I handle that?
Okay, how do we do this again? They always say you gotta try and do. They always say you gotta try and do the same thing twice. So I think that's what the challenge has always been ever since. But we've seemed to manage. You know, a lot of the songs that we've released ever since Audio 3D have really done well. They've hit a couple of #1s. Two Cups Shakur did pretty well. Bump the Cheese Up did also very well. But yeah, I think Do It Like I Can is really like the start of all the madness.
And now that people know Reason as a big brand,
yes,
what other challenges do you continue to still face?
I guess there's a lot of challenges that you face when it comes to, especially these days, it depends, you know what I mean? It's like there's challenges that you meet when it comes to like, let's say, the recording industry challenges, which is like, you know, the conversations that we always have with like record labels and major record labels and distribution not happening on time, or the CDs, or having very little, you know, music being bought to put into the stores, and then it sells out quickly, and then it takes like 2-3 weeks to get more stock into the store. Like something as small as that can affect like a couple of thousand copies that needed to be sold, because people will come in within that 3 weeks and not find the record. That's a challenge. Being different is a bit of a challenge as well, you know, because when everybody's doing the same thing and you're doing your own thing on the right, it kind of excludes you from a certain community that a lot of people would perceive as maybe hip-hop, you know. So people would say this is what hip-hop is today, and you're out there like, I'm not really like that, you know, I'm going to do this thing, and then you might be excluded from what people consider to be hip-hop today. There's also the challenge of, you know, I don't know, there's just so many different challenges that you go through, you know, a lot of which are very much idealistic, you know what I mean? It's like what is and what should be, or what people think should be, you know? Yeah.
And do you think it's cool to be known, to be famous?
Well, my profession is good business. My profession.
Not from a business point of view. We're talking from a personal point of view, because you still have a personal life. You take yourself out there and you still have a personal life. You know, how does that affect you in a way, or you go?
I think in some instances it really gets to you. I mean, you know, you'll find people who want to take pictures at funerals.
Oh.
You know what I mean? It's like,
no. Hey. Really?
Is that what you want to do right now? You know what I'm saying? And they'll wait for the funeral to finish and then say, okay, but like it's done. You know,
maybe that
it's
thing
like,
be gone.
I don't know, hey, it still feels uncomfortable.
But
you're out at home affairs. I mean, I actually have the complex of actually disappointing my peoples actually when they actually do things. I do actually. Because more often than not, I always think to myself, just saying no to this person can affect them forever, in the sense that this could be that person who's been listening to your music since you started. They could have been listening to the jingles, you know?
Yes.
And unfortunately for them, that funeral is probably the only time they're ever going to see you at face value that close. And what is a person to do? So I always have that complexity where I'm like, oh man, I can't really let this person down. Although I've learned to do it a little bit more, or I've learned to be a little bit firm when I'm with like my kid. You know, you're out at Grove City and you're out there with your kid. You can't keep stopping taking pictures with everybody, or you can't keep, you know, being that person. It's almost like you almost have to switch it off before, so people can switch it off as well. To say, okay, cool, he's in his own space, he's doing his own thing.
You think people understand that?
I don't think they do. But I think it's up to us to make them understand that. You know, I mean, somebody will come and have that conversation with you, and you know how you break it down, or how you explain it, or how you give it to them is going to make them walk away and say, "Okay, cool, that makes sense." I'm really terrible at saying no when it comes to those things, but I'm learning. A huge part of me is actually still learning when it comes to this industry. I'm learning how to get familiar with people. I'm learning how to, you know, become a bigger brand. I'm learning how to control my brand. I'm learning how to, you know, become a bigger business. I'm learning how to run my own business. You know, so a lot of it is a lot of learning, you know. And I guess you're probably going to be learning forever.
Oh yes, it doesn't end.
Yeah, it doesn't end.
Do you still get a lot of negative comments?
I don't get negative comments as much as I get stupid comments. I get really stupid comments.
Give us an example of a stupid comment that you received.
Oh man, I can't. Wow.
Stupid comments.
I don't know, man. I don't know where to
start. Or maybe that's how you would define it.
In fact, it's funny. It's funny. It's a lot of that is the reason why I actually don't spend that much time on Twitter anymore. You know, like I only go on Twitter, read a couple of tweets. It's just the disappointment of actually feeling some type of way over the fact that somebody read your tweet and they were like, yo, you killed Dumi on that song, and I'm like, oh, but like nobody was trying to kill anyone. You know what I mean? Like, you know, why is there so much competitiveness? Or, yo, Breezen, who do you think is better, AKA or Casper? And I'm like, dog, come on. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when you spend less time just reading and going through all those things, you spend more time living and putting life on your tweets, you know what I mean? To say, hey, you know, thank God once a day. You know, that's only something that you actually get to realize when you actually live life, you know? A lot of people tend to find life in Twitter, and it's like, no, you actually live your life and then you share it on Twitter instead of just going onto Twitter and then trying to live it. You know, you don't see reason at the Hartepies put down and you think, damn, I want to go to Hartepies. And then you go to Hartepies and then you get to Hartepies and you're like, man, Hartepies is whack, like, whatever. But that's my thing, is I spend that much time, I spend much less time on Twitter, and I just use it to just sell, have a few conversations and be out so that I don't get too caught up in it.
Which is really good.
So.
Can you tell us more about the new album?
Audio High Definition. Audio High Definition is what is like a sequel to Audio 3D, which was my second album, the one that came before this one.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a sequel. And what Audio High Definition is about, it's like, I consider it the highest definition of myself as an artist. Because I think I brought my best and I put myself in the music. Very, very personal album. Very, very honest, very sincere, very expressive. Experimental in a lot of cases musically. Still hip hop. And I think it's a really, really, really a proud product that I'm you know, proud to have and have made. You know, when I consider the people that we worked with, I mean, Dumi, Tandy Somazwai, M.I., Lockenville, Donald, WHB. I mean, just that list alone, without even getting into the rest of the list with the Bonangs, you know, and all those other people. I'm just like, just that little collection was, for me, was just like, I got all my favorite artists on my album, you know. That's big enough for me, even if we only sold one copy. Just the number of people, you know, the artists that we have in this album, or the work that we put into this album, or the artwork, or everything that we've created, it's just like, it's good enough, it's worth it, you know. Very proud of it.
Beautiful. Reason, thank you so much for inviting us here.
Yes.
And viewers, thank you very much for watching.